Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Madison. I'm George Hidalgo, Club President. Thanks for joining us today. So we opened today's meeting by remembering a longtime Rotary member who passed away on Monday. Jim Eben, who was former president of Edgewood College, passed away on November 30th at the age of 83. He joined our Rotary Club in 1987 and was previously a Rotarian in Adrian, Michigan. We extend our sympathy to his wife, Marilyn, and to their family. Now, our club has made a $100 contribution in his memory to our Madison Rotary Foundation to establish the Jim Eben Memorial Fund. Members wishing to make a contribution to this fund in his memory may send their gifts to our Rotary office. Now, unfortunately, I have another death to announce. Tom Loftus passed away on November 27th at the age of 87. He joined our Rotary Club in 1997 and was former pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church. Now, our club has made a $100 contribution in Tom's memory to our Madison Rotary Foundation to establish the Tom Loftus Memorial Fund. Members wishing to make a contribution to this fund may send their gifts to the Rotary office. So let's pause for a moment of silence to remember our longtime Rotary friends, Jim Eben and Tom Loftus. Now, I try to open every meeting by reminding our fellow Rotarians about how great an organization the Rotary Club of Madison is. And so always focus on some positive affirmations. Today, I want to talk about the Community Grants Program. So at this time of the year, we not only fundraise, but we also solicit applications from local nonprofits who will benefit 100% of dollars raised during our current fundraising campaign. As you notice, you've seen the videos that we show every week of the many organizations that we're helping. And as you know, 100% of what we raise during the current fundraising campaign goes to our community. So the deadline for those grant applications was yesterday, and we received 60 applications from local nonprofits seeking a grant to help families and kids in need in our community. Again, families and kids in need in our community. It's critical that we remember that. And the pandemic has substantially increased the needs for families. So when you consider your year-end giving, we hope you give generously to the Madison Rotary Foundation. Remember that your gift helps those in need in our local community. Again, local community. And we'll hear from our Community Grants Campaign Chair, Ellsworth Brown, later in the agenda. But know that the needs are great in our community based on the applications from local nonprofits requesting a grant from us. So with that, let's go on to our music. Casey Oakers will play today's patriotic song, This Land Is Your Land, which will be followed by a feature song, What the World Needs Now, performed by Dick Lovell with Jeff Bartell on the piano, and video production by our very own Neil Feuerbach.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another mountain. There are mountains and hillsides enough to climb. There are oceans and rivers enough to cross, enough to last for the end of time. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, oh, but just for everyone.
Jenny Jeffries chairs our Community Projects Committee, and she has an announcement.
Hi, I'm Jenny Jeffries, and I'm chair of the Community Projects Committee. I just wanted to remind everybody that we are in the midst of our holiday gift drive. We are trying to get 100 gifts for kids in our community who are either at the Lucier Community Center or at Salvation Army. It's an especially challenging year for our families in our community, and we really want to help them have a great holiday by making sure that they can have gifts under the tree or for their kids during the holiday. So it's really easy. There's an online form. It's on the Facebook page, or we send it out in the newsletter. You just select the kid. It lists exactly what they want. You can either buy it online if you're not comfortable shopping in the community, and you can have it sent directly to Lucier or to Salvation Army. Or you can actually wrap the gift if it's Salvation Army or Lucier gifts are unwrapped, and you can actually bring it to the Madison Club on December 9th between 2 and 4 p.m. So we're trying to make it easy. If you have any questions at all, just send me an email or give me a phone call. But I hope you might be able to help us this year to make sure all the kids in our community have a great holiday. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Jenny. And we have about 40 tags remaining. So there is a link to the chat right now. So consider clicking on the link and selecting a tag or two to help those children in need during the holiday season. Ellsworth Brown, our Community Grants Campaign Chair, will give us an update.
Good afternoon. I hope you had a meaningful Thanksgiving last week. Though unusual, perhaps it served to heighten our focus on the things for which we are most grateful. No videos today, but a few details for you about the campaign for our community grants, because we're at the halfway mark. And that's fantastic news. This next slide will actually show you the numbers that I get every week, in this case on November 24th. And in them, there is both good news and even better news. As you can see, 52% of our members have contributed. We're over the halfway mark toward full participation. That's the good news. And for those of you who have watched, you might have seen the scroll before the weekly meetings, in which we list those who have given thus far. It's also on our website. For the remaining 40% of you, 48%, don't worry. You have time, and we haven't forgotten you. We know where you live, and we'll keep those cards and letters coming as reminders. The next slide shows just a couple of points that I want to mention. We knew last spring when we set this goal that it would be a challenging thing to do, that we might not be accurate, either above or below the mark. And so we set it at $110,000. In fact, it seems very clear now that we're at 90% of goal and about halfway through those who could give, that we will exceed the goal, perhaps significantly. And that is the best news of all, because all of this money goes directly to the users that we grant money to. It doesn't get peeled off for administrative services of any kind. And so we are able to affect the full range of support that we intend to give to those who need in these times. We knew that the pandemic would touch members of our organization much as they touch everyone else. Some are able to increase their gifts, others were not able to increase them or had to decrease them. We understand that, and it's important for all of us to know that every gift that is given makes a difference in a cumulative effect especially, and we deeply appreciate all of them. So in that regard, thank you all who have given, the 222 of you, for your help. Actually, the 70 who were able to increase their gifts have managed to raise the number about net of $9,000 over those who had to decrease. So we have done a good job this year of stepping up when we're able to for this campaign, and I appreciate it greatly. Here are a few things on the screen that I want you to take a look at. First of all, the two sources of funds, the Ehlers and the Zulte Fund, of our permanent funds held by the foundation. We don't raise money for them, and they make their gifts independently. But the Community Grants Fund is the one we're talking about. Last year's goal was $152,000. And I've given you the names of three organizations that are at the top of the recipient list for size of grants. The $7,000 Community Health Centers grant, in fact, was the largest, and it gives a free medical service to indigent or low-income families with children who have no health insurance. The next one, Transition Education Program, may be a bit misleading because it actually also now provides emergency housing funds, as does the money that's given to the YWCA. On the right side, the smaller grants are of a different scale, certainly, but not unimportant to those whom they affect. The Children's Dyslexic Center, for example, reminds me of a story my wife often tells. When she was teaching third grade, one of her students came in tremendously excited one morning, just couldn't wait to tell her that she'd been tested and had dyslexia. "I'm no longer stupid," she said. Imagine helping a child to read over the course of about a year up to grade level. They do that for a number of children in a very quiet and often not visible way. The Dementor Foundation is one that's going to hold its money until the pandemic makes it possible to spend it as it usually would. And the YMCA funds are also used for housing. As a matter of fact, of the 44 grants that were awarded last year, half of them, literally half, 22, were for one of three kinds of aid. 5 directly addressed food needs, 6 provided funds for medical care, and 11 addressed the need for shelter or protection from threatening circumstances in one way or another. So for the 22 of you who have given, although nobody's looking, stand up and take a bow. And for the rest of you, we'll be reminding you of the needs that are there and our desire to help. Thank you very much, all of you, for listening and for your participation.
So we have a Rotary Information Committee that provides occasional short reports about Rotary history. Janine O'Rourke serves on this committee, and she's going to tell us about the current COVID pandemic compared to the polio epidemic. Janine?
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, we've commonly heard comparisons to the 1918 Spanish flu, but much less comparison to the polio epidemics that terrorized parents each summer starting in the late 1800s. By the 1950s, polio infected over 600,000 people, mostly children, globally each year. A failed vaccine was released in 1935, and then finally in 1955, the race for a cure was achieved with a successful vaccine delivered by Dr. Jonas Salk of the University of Pittsburgh. Rotary's involvement in polio eradication began in 1979 with a successful project in the Philippines. This led Rotary International to select polio eradication as a top priority, launching Polio Plus and joining with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 1988 in the formation of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. We have delivered 2.5 billion vaccinations to children through this initiative and its infrastructure. What you may not be aware of is the impact this global polio eradication infrastructure has on controlling and eradicating COVID-19. The infrastructure has already been successfully tapped to control, contain, and vaccinate against malaria, measles, and Ebola. A few examples of the infrastructure include the cold chain. This is a system of freezers and cold boxes, which allows polio workers to store and transport the vaccine in hot climates like Pakistan. Emergency operations centers. These are local government and healthcare teams working collaboratively to respond quickly. For example, in 2014 in Lagos, Nigeria, this response center quickly mobilized after a case of Ebola was detected at the airport, and they were able to contact trace and limit the infected to only 19 individuals, eradicating the disease within 3 months. This infrastructure is active in over 50 countries and is already being leveraged to respond to COVID-19. Take the example in Italy this March, where over 900 clubs responded with a coordinated strategy focusing on disease prevention and resourcing 28 hospitals with PPE and critical medical equipment. While Rotary continues to stay focused on polio eradication, I am inspired to know the same infrastructure is being used to eradicate COVID-19 and will continue to protect our global citizens from future diseases. I am more proud than ever to call myself a Rotarian.
Well, thanks for that report, Janine. While we are on the topic of polio, I wanted to share that our club received a certificate of appreciation from the Rotary International Foundation for our contribution to the Polio Plus Fund. So let me just share a really nice certificate here from Rotary International Foundation. And as you know, our club provides a $30 contribution in the name of our speaker each week as a way of expressing our appreciation. And this is helping to continue the efforts to eradicate polio from the world. So Jennifer Weissman chairs our Member Development Engagement Subcommittee, and she has an announcement.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. I'm Jennifer Weitzman, and I'm currently serving as the chair of the Member Engagement Subcommittee. I'd like to take a few moments to speak to you about our Rotary Club's new private Facebook group. Some of you are already aware of the group and are actively participating. We currently have 80 members, and we'd love to see the community grow. If you're like me, you're missing our in-person meetings and the weekly opportunity to connect with fellow Rotarians. As we all navigate the new COVID normal, the Facebook group was created as a way for us to continue having meaningful interactions. For those of you who are not currently part of the group, I'd like to share what it's all about. It's a private group, which means only members who join it can see and participate within the group. It's also important to know that it is different from our club's Facebook page. Think of the club page as the front of the house and the group as the back of the house. Our club page or front of the house is our public face where we communicate to all who we are and what the club is about. The private group is the back of the house where the party happens. This is a place for Rotarians to connect and along those lines share content that is in keeping with our value proposition of connect, grow, and serve. Here are some examples of posts on our private page, and they fall within these three groups. A Connect post from Mark Moody and Rob Stroud invited interested Rotarians for a bike ride on the Badger State Trail. Another from Megan Ballard shared photos of the bowling fellowship and the fun that was had at 10 Pin Alley. Kareem Kerr gave us an opportunity to grow by posting a great video regarding education, equity, and opportunity. And Rebecca Prohaska made us aware of our very own Michelle McGrath's book launch, Dropping the F-Bomb, Proven Strategies to be Fearless, Forward, and Fulfilled. And a serve post was provided by Jenny Jeffers, keeping us updated on Socktober Sock Drive and information on how everyone could contribute. If you are already on Facebook, joining the group is easy. Go to facebook.com/groups/connect-grow-serve and click the Join Group button. There is also a link showing right now in the chat that can make it even easier. If you have any difficulty finding or joining the group, or if you're not currently on Facebook and would like to be, email the office and they can connect you with someone who can assist. Thank you, and I hope to see you all online.
So last week we held an interactive Zoom networking session. It was great to catch up with fellow Rotarians. Now, we were able to use the breakout sessions and thoroughly enjoy connecting with fellow Rotarians. Now, even though the breakout sessions had 10 minutes, I think everybody who was part of the breakout session felt that was almost not enough time. And we broke down to groups of 3 to 5 people in each breakout session. So it really was fantastic time for those Rotarians that participated. So our Rotary District recently shared a short video that captures Rotary and why someone should join. And I wanted to share it with members. So let's watch this 1-minute video.
Welcome to Rotary. With your unique skills and perspective, you are joining a global network of problem solvers, drawn together by a desire to make a difference. Together, we can be bolder. When you share your ideas and connect with others, it's not just your community that benefits. You'll grow as a leader and feel a shared sense of purpose that comes from finding lasting solutions to big problems. Get involved in a way that's meaningful to you. Find a mentor. Sign up for a training. Volunteer in a service project. Or attend a global event. You are now connected to 1.2 million people of action who unite to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Welcome to Rotary.
Following up that video and looking at what we can accomplish together in Rotary, we have a introduction to Rotary today. So Dory Botts is owner of Lotus Flower Enterprise in Middleton and was previously a member from 2018 until early this year. Now, we reached out to members who had left our club within the past 3 years and let them know they could return our club without paying an admission fee. Dory was pleased to take us up on that offer, and let's welcome Dory back to our Rotary Club. Some Madison Rotary Foundation news. So our trustees met 2 weeks ago and they approved updates to their bylaws to make their process of electing officers same as our club's bylaws. So the updates include having their vice president automatically become president the following year, just as our Rotary Club does. So Don Krim, our current Madison Rotary Foundation Vice President, will become President of the Madison Rotary Foundation next July 1st. So let's congratulate Don Krim. That's fantastic. So also in Foundation news, the annual report is now available, and it provides detailed information about our foundation, the grants and programs that it supports. So you can view the 2019-2020 annual report in the members login section of our website. You can also contact the Rotary office if you'd like a printed copy mailed to you. Again, we contribute a significant amount to our community and through the foundation. So it's your help that makes that possible. So be aware of what the foundation does. So please look into that. So next item is many of us use Amazon for online purchases. So when you are making purchases, think about using smileamazon.com so you can support our Madison Rotary Foundation. So now if you place an order through smileamazon.com, and really when you get on it, there's no difference between the regular site and Smile, except for there's a charity assigned. So the Madison Rotary Foundation should be selected as the charity choice, and the Amazon Smile Foundation donates 0.5% of the purchase price of your purchase items to our foundation. Obviously, a lot of people are buying Christmas presents, so you're doing it on Amazon.com for Prime free delivery. So please select the Madison Rotary Foundation as your charity of choice. Now, just be aware that the Amazon Smile listings has numerous Madison Rotary Foundations. So be sure you choose the one in Madison, Wisconsin. There actually is a Madison, New Jersey, and there's obviously other Madisons throughout the country. So make sure you select the Madison Rotary Foundation based out of Madison, Wisconsin. There will be more information this Friday's Rotary News about it to remind you to look into this option. Remember, 0.5% doesn't sound like a lot, but with all the purchases, every little bit helps. So please do that. So we have birthdays celebrate with a little bit of humor, wisdom that complements Rotary's mission. So we also encourage members to make an age-appropriate gift to the Madison Rotary Foundation, then round it up to $100 for our Club Synergy Scholarship Fund. So on November 29th, Stu Levitan, who shares a quote from Bob Dylan, "But for the sky, there are no fences facing." So November 29th, Stacy Nemeth. November 29th, Tammy Taylor. December 1st, Paul Fanlon. December 1st, Rich Lepping. December 1st, Mary O'Brien. Now, Mary celebrated her birthday yesterday, which was National Giving Day. So in honor of National Giving Day, Mary offers to donate $10 for every Rotary member who makes a donation to our Madison Rotary Foundation Community Grants Campaign today. So if 25 members make a pledge or donation today, she will donate another $250 to our foundation. So it's a win-win for our foundation campaign. So please contact the Rotary office today to make your gift for this campaign. And thank you so much, Mary. I think that's a great example of serving the community. And thank you for going above and beyond. Really appreciate it. December 2nd, Jim Kruger. December 3, Greg Everts. December 5th, Dick Reiselbach. Now, we also have a birthday message from Paul Ranola, one of our birthday celebrants from our last meeting, who shares, "A big thanks to Brian and Jason for all their hard work providing online video streaming for our weekly meetings." It makes sense that Paul would say that because he knows exactly how much work is involved in making it happen. So I echo those sentiments for Brian and Jason. Thank you for all you do to help us continue with our virtual meetings. So thanks to our celebrants for their contributions to Madison Rotary Foundation. Please join me in wishing them a happy birthday, and Jeff and Angela Bartel will sing and play Happy Birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you.
Look at members in the news, and there are a lot of members in the news, and I will be able to select some of them. I actually have almost a page and a half of our fellow Rotarians that are making a significant difference in the community. And if you think about our value proposition of connect, grow, and serve, the connections is just amazing. The caliber of fellow Rotarians, and then also in terms of our service to the community is just outstanding. So this week I want to select Alan Ebert as our featured member in the news. Now, he was a Rotarian lacrosse for 3 years and was previously a member of our club from 2009 to 2011 and rejoined in 2016. He's also a U.S. Army veteran and is a recipient of the military's Irving Rubinstein Award. So Alan is executive director of the Children's Theater of Madison, and he has been especially busy this year. Now, he was pictured and quoted in the Wisconsin State Journal article on November 15th about the 4-story Madison Youth Arts Center that's under construction. So it's a $35 million project which will feature a 300-seat theater and will be home to multiple nonprofit organizations. So this is quite an ambitious project, and I'm sure the pandemic has added another layer of complications. However, the building is scheduled to open in late spring or early summer of 2021, and we look forward to hearing more about its completion in the coming months. So, other members in the news. I wanted to share that Paul Karch's father, Jim Karch, passed away in Baraboo on November 13th. So we extend our sympathies to Paul and the loss of his father. Matt Darga was featured as In Business Professional of the Week on November 10th. Emily Grunwald was quoted in an article about the Overture Center for the Arts being one of the dozens of local cultural organizations recently awarded COVID-19 relief funding, and that's a Wisconsin State Journal. And Donna Moreland was pictured and interviewed in an article about her new state job that she says is an opportunity to continue to serve, and that's Capital Times 1118. And then Christian Overland was quoted in an article announcing that the Wisconsin Historical Society will not open 8 historic sites around the state in 2021 due to the pandemic. And then John Hayes was pictured in a feature article titled State Street Jewel, Madison Magazine, December 2020. So I've got about 9 others, but in the interest of time, I will hopefully save them for next week. And we'll go on to our program. So our speaker today is Steven Olikara, who is the founder of the Millennial Action Project based in Washington, D.C. Now, Steven is a native of Brookfield, Wisconsin. He's a graduate of UW-Madison, and he is a former Truman Scholar. From among a generation of millennial legislators that are spread across the country, Steven has built various bipartisan coalitions to generate change on issues where there is common ground. He will share with us his optimism for a new and positive tone in our public discourse as young people come together to ensure we build a better, stronger democracy for the next generation. So we look forward to your presentation, Steven, and we have made a contribution to the Rotary International Plus Fund as a way to say thanks for speaking to us today. Now, Steven will be available for a Q&A session immediately following our meeting today via Zoom. Now, there's a link in this morning's email from the Rotary office, so if you'd like to participate in the Zoom, let's welcome Steven to our virtual podium.
Hello, everyone. I'm Steven Olikara. I'm the founder and CEO of the National Millennial Action Project, and it is a real thrill and privilege to be joining all of you today at the Madison Rotary Club. A big thank you to my good friend Ron Luskin, as well as Club President Jorge Hidalgo, for the invitation to be with all of you today. I am here to talk about opportunity in politics, why we can be hopeful about young leaders who are creating a positive new force in our democracy. And I have a unique vantage point into that through the Millennial Action Project. We work directly with our nation's youngest elected officials in state legislatures as well as in Congress, seeing how we can build new coalitions for change. And at the end of the day, it's all about building a new kind of politics, moving away from a politics of contempt, moving towards a politics of compassion. And it's our belief that investing in our young leaders is the greatest opportunity we have to transform our nation's politics. A little bit about my background. I have an unconventional path into politics and public service. I grew up in Brookfield, Wisconsin. I'm a first-generation American. My parents are immigrants from India. And like a good Indian son, I figured most of my childhood I'd become an engineer. And I really did enjoy building things. But I had a passion for a different discipline that ended up changing my life and leading to my calling in politics. And that first passion was music. I played in every type of band you can imagine. I had rock bands, I had jazz groups, I had hip-hop bands, I had a klezmer band. If anyone knows what klezmer music is, I'll give you extra points. But I was playing music in a particular context, and that was Greater Milwaukee. And Greater Milwaukee is the most racially segregated metro area in the country, as many of you know, but also one of the most politically polarized as well. And music was that rare force to transcend and build bridges across our lines of difference in the community. My bands were like motley crews of people from all different backgrounds, and our audiences were many times as well. And I learned a profound lesson for that, which is when we bring together our diversity in constructive ways, it leads to better art, not worse. It led to an evolution of ideas, not a dilution of ideas. And that was so profound, and it built bridges of common understanding and common purpose. Now, this all happened musically, but I learned lessons that actually applied to our democracy and our political leadership. And I'll give you 3 modes that I particularly took away from jazz that became the basis of Millennial Action Project. 3 things. The first is listening. On my first day at jazz camp, our jazz instructor comes out. He says, I know you all want to play music today. You're going to put away your instruments because the most important skill today is listening. And listening activates our sense of empathy. It allows us to truly hear someone's lived human experience, and that's essential to a healthy democracy. The second, improvisation. Jazz is an improvised art form in the sense that we're constantly riffing and building on each other's ideas. We're constantly reframing with often unexpected ideas and perspectives. We're bringing to the jazz our full identity, and it's a good thing when we add our own original flair to the music. And that's what we need in our politics as well. We need to often reframe ideas as not left versus right, but future versus the past, and bring our full selves to the conversation, building on each other's ideas. The third is call and response. Jazz is a call and response art form in the same way that democracy at its best is a call and response political system. What that speaks to is being fully present in our conversations and building coalitions that are required to create something new together. So those are the 3 jazz modes I want us to keep in mind as I talk about the core vision and methodology of Millennial Action Project. Now, I went to college at UW-Madison. I graduated having seen political partisanship up close at the state capitol. And then I moved to DC to create this national organization and started traveling the country and building chapters. And we built a really strong chapter here in Wisconsin. And it's premised on 2 of the biggest forces that will shape the future of our democracy. 1, rising polarization and partisanship. This is an existential threat to our democracy. We know from other historical models that a country divided will not stand, as Lincoln said. And we're seeing really alarming trends as well. Today, 2/3 of Americans see people of the other side as not just being different, but being fundamentally evil. And so we've created this culture of contempt in our politics. The second trend is more optimistic. It's the rise of the millennial generation, Gen Z after us, who are coming into politics with a fundamentally different approach. If I had to sum it up in one phrase, is that we're approaching politics focused on the issues, not on the party. And that creates a new opportunity for partnership and coalitions. Now, the way we focus on these forces is through elected office, particularly the youngest people. We build these bipartisan coalitions. We have a few dozen members of Congress, and at the state level, we have over 1,500 young legislators. That makes us the largest nonpartisan organization of young elected officials in the country. We've built a really strong chapter here in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Future Caucus. It is the only bipartisan caucus in the state legislature. It's made up of young legislators roughly under the age of 40. And they commit to working together on issues like higher education, on criminal justice reform, and most recently, safe voting in a pandemic. And I'll share a little bit more about those examples in a moment. But one other key message about our model and our methodology, just like in jazz, this is not about finding the least common denominator. This is about finding new ideas and new consensus. That's an evolutionary process. It's about co-creating solutions together. And so when we work with our legislators, there are 3 things that we're doing. First, we're building relationships. building those listening muscles. The second thing is that we are helping on policy development, helping to reframe issues, as I mentioned earlier, about future oriented solutions. And then the third thing is building coalitions for change that are durable, that actually get legislation over the finish line. And that's a powerful thing to see, because too often when we read about different legislation, it's usually a messaging bill. It's not actually passing and getting over the finish line. So that's really what we're focused on with our leaders. It's become a tremendous movement that's given me a lot of hope. Now, I'll give a few examples of how this works in practice. I referenced safe voting here in Wisconsin. Our biggest initiative in 2020 is building election resiliency. We all saw those images in April of what a poorly planned election looks like here in Wisconsin. We wanted to change that dynamic, and we started on a listening tour. We didn't write anyone off. We brought people in and built the only bipartisan coalition of sitting elected officials here in Wisconsin to strengthen our safe voting systems. For example, there was a bipartisan decision to send out absentee ballot requests to voters here, but also helping to secure funding so that elections administrators have the protective equipment they need for safe in-person voting. That was a huge success, and I was proud, among other big victories, that 2.5 times more young voters voted early in this election here in Wisconsin than they did in 2016. So that was a big accomplishment, and we also had the only bipartisan public service announcement on voting here in Wisconsin. We targeted it in a few strategic areas, and we found a measurable increase, usually 5 to 10% increase in safe and early voting, absentee voting in those municipalities compared to other areas where we were less active. So it had a real tangible impact, and it was based on research that we found that local spokespeople have the biggest influence in building bipartisan buy-in into a voting system. So that's one opportunity that we saw here, and there are more opportunities that we plan to pursue early next year to further strengthen the voting system. For example, having the pre-processing of absentee ballots is going to be one that we pursue next year. The second opportunity, the second example, is around gerrymandering reform. Some people might think that this is the most partisan issue because one party, by definition, is benefiting at the expense of another party. But we've seen a different way of approaching it. In Ohio, we had leaders who reached out to us saying, we want to work on gerrymandering reform, Democrats and Republicans. And people were saying at the time, well, that's impossible. They even said, that's cute that you guys want to work on this. But our leader said a very basic message that cut through. It's that our leaders should win elections because they have the best ideas and they've done the best outreach, not because they're cheating their voters. That ultimately cut through. We built this coalition, and ultimately gerrymandering reform passed. That was a gigantic victory. We're seeing that momentum spread in Michigan, for example. Coalition of young people, former people across the political spectrum, Trump supporters, Hillary voters, people from all over decided to support the Voters Not Politicians ballot referendum, and gerrymandering reform passed there. It passed in Colorado. It passed in Missouri. A few weeks ago, it passed in Virginia. So every time it's on the ballot, we're seeing these structural democracy reforms pass in a cross-partisan fashion, and it's very exciting to see, and usually young leaders have been at the forefront of that. Third example, gun violence prevention. After the Parkland shooting, we knew we had to do something, and we felt this moment could be a game changer. We hosted the Parkland students on Capitol Hill. Our congressional members, it's called the Congressional Future Caucus, hosted the students, and came across an idea that was long overdue, and that was authorizing the Centers for Disease Control to study gun violence as a public health issue. It had been banned for doing that for over 2 decades. And our coalition, those congressional members, were the first members to support that and introduce it. It ultimately passed, And now the CDC is authorized to study gun violence and is funded to do that research. So that is a huge change. In all of these examples, safe voting, gerrymandering reform, gun violence research, they're examples of real tangible change in politics and young leaders being at the forefront of leading those coalitions. So that's what we're all about. And I'll share one just reflection here on all of these stories, and there's a common theme that weaves them all together. It's a reflection that came to my mind this past summer when we were hosting our annual Future Summit. It's our conference where we bring together our young legislators from across the country that network, learn from models that are working. And this year, we brought in Dr. King's oldest son, Martin Luther King III, because our methodology is rooted in what Dr. King called the pursuit of the beloved community. And it's about raising the consciousness of radical love in our political system. And so we brought him in, and I asked him a question. I asked him, how would your father be responding to the polarization of this moment? And he said very simply, my father would be calling us to a higher order. And that's what we need from our politics today. We need a higher order of thinking, a higher consciousness, as we think about people who are marginalized, people who have less than us, people who are different from us, to express what Dr. King called agape love, which is not affection. It's not that we have to like everyone, but it's expressing our highest, most charitable form of love to all human beings who are all children of God, in the words of Dr. King. So that's really the mentality that we've been building in these young leaders, and we're seeing those tangible results of how it leads to real change. Now, what can all of us do, whether we're in public office or not in public office? 3 things I want to leave you with. First is just acknowledging and recognizing the problem that those who are in power are manipulating us to feel contempt for each other and hate each other. And that's because there's a business model around it. There's a lot of money to be made. You get a lot of likes on social media. You even get votes off of that. Not good for our democracy, but is sometimes profitable politically and financially. So just when we recognize that dynamic is happening, it's important, and it's supercharged by social media. If any of you have seen the Social Dilemma documentary, it speaks to those algorithms. So that's step 1. Step 2, choose and exercise empathy. We did this through a program here in Wisconsin for 2 years, a Red and Blue Dialogue series, where we worked with our electeds and community members to exercise empathy and compassion. It's a muscle that needs to be exercised over time, especially for tough political conversations. Hearing the real human story that we have, and that's what allows us to find common ground. Third thing, support leaders who believe in the art of political bridge building. And that's something that we can all do. And leading into the midterm elections in 2022, something we should definitely focus on. At the end of the day, our leaders can either appeal to our darkest impulses, or they can appeal to, as Lincoln said, our better angels. Let's elevate young leaders who believe in that kind of politics. So I hope you all enjoyed this presentation. Please reach out to me directly if you have ideas. You can find me on social media at Steven Olikara, or on email. Check out our website, www.millennialaction.org. I very much look forward to the question and answer, and thank you for tuning in.
Hey, thank you for the presentation, Stephen, and thanks for everyone who attended today's meeting. Now, if you'd like to participate in the live Q&A with Stephen, please click on the Zoom link you received this morning in the email from the Rotary office. We are adjourned.